Mayoral Memo with Matthew Dickinson from Dubbo Regional Council.
Thanks for your company this morning, just on 18 past 7, and a very good morning to our Dubbo Region Mayor, who's out and about, not in Australia still. Matthew Dickinson, good morning, and post-happy Easter. How are you?
Good, thank you, Bret. Good morning to you as well, and happy Easter to you as well. We didn't get a chance to chat much before Easter, so hopefully everyone had a great Easter.
That's it. Now, Easter celebrated differently right across the globe. Where are you at right now? Where did you celebrate Easter?
In South Korea at the moment. We're flying to Japan later on this morning. And it's interesting, South Korea is largely a Christian country, but they don't have the same focus on the public holidays that Australia does. So when we spoke to a lot of locals about celebrating Good Friday and Easter Monday and having public holidays, for those two, that was all a bit foreign. They may celebrate Easter from a Christian perspective, but they don't take the Christian holidays to the same level. Even Christmas is not a big holiday. They do actually have a public holiday for Christmas, but we talked to many people. There were big lineups at Mass on Sunday, for example. There were Masses on the hour. There were Masses done in English and in Korean. But again, they were back at work Monday morning. It was a hustle and bustle time around Seoul at the moment we're in, and that was all very busy yesterday morning when things were back as normal.
All right, when do you plan to come back to Dubbo?
Back in Dubbo next week. So we're off to Japan to Minakamo, our sister city, today, and then back into Dubbo next week.
Okay, all right. Looking forward to your return, but hopefully our sister city welcomes you very nicely. A few things happened, including the closure of the Olympic pool here in Dubbo. There was a crypto outbreak.
Yeah, there was an issue there on just before Easter, actually. So it was closed for about 2 days there. Easter Friday, it was obviously going to be closed anyway, but cryptosporidium is obviously a major illness and something that people can get very sick from, and in extreme cases, people can die from it. It's basically a gastro bug, if you like. And the Department of Health or New South Wales Health Environmental Health Officer said that 2 people had become ill from the water slide. And so once that happens, then there's a process that we go through. Belgravia managed that very well, and essentially closing down the water slide was essential. But the water that goes through the water slide is on the same system that actually goes through the pool, so the pool had to be closed as well. So that was a necessary shutdown, opened up again, and everything's back on track. But again, that's one of the things that we're always on the lookout for. We know from a water treatment perspective, crypto is a potential problem that we always have to be looking out for. And in that case, unfortunate, and again, it's not Belgravia's fault. This is something that crypto can sneak in. The normal rate of chlorination in a pool is between 3 and 10 milligrams per litre. The way you get rid of crypto in water is to do a hyperchlorination, which they needed to do, where you're basically putting 20 milligrams of chlorine in per litre for a period of 28 hours. So it's a high level of concentration of chlorine, much higher than normal. So that was done, and then back to normal, and the pool's back open and running as per normal now.
So, Matt, not a mismanagement issue?
Not a mismanagement issue. Crypto can get in anywhere. Public pools is one of the areas that is constantly monitored for crypto, because obviously it can get in and can affect a lot of people. But there are, across the nation, there have been cases of public pools where crypto has been in the pools. And again, the chlorine level that's in the pool, the normal chlorine level, is not enough to get rid of crypto.
Is there nothing to keep it out 100% of the time, always?
There's no way crypto that I know of, and I'm not a health expert as such, but there's no way that I know of that crypto can be guaranteed 100% gone. Even in a water treatment plant, you remember about a year ago, or a bit over a year ago, we had a boil water alert that we had for a period of time. Not because we had any crypto in the actual water treatment itself, but the turbidity level of our water snuck above 0.5, and that can be enough to give an indicator that crypto can be in the water. So again, it's something you're constantly monitoring for in water treatment, in pools. And again, the process here was that because 2 people reported to the hospital with crypto, then that was enough for a bit of a backtrack of where they'd been and what had happened, and they'd worked out they'd both been to the water slide, and that was enough to say there could be an issue there, let's close the pool down.
So not an infrastructure ageing issue at the pool at all?
Nothing that I can see that I know of there that shows that the pool infrastructure is causing this. Again, it would be unreasonable to keep the chlorine at 20 milligrams per litre. People would get in and you'd probably smell the chlorine. It would be too strong a chlorine level. Again, that normal rate's between 3 and 10. So I don't know that there's anything that any pools across the nation have worked out to say this is a way to guarantee to keep crypto away. Normally, you don't see much crypto in pools, but it can get in there sometimes.
All right. Quickly, there's flushing of the water mains in progress across Wellington, Mumble and Geary at the Bennett. What does that do?
This is really just one of those regular maintenance things that we undertake. So you're right, Wellington, Geary, Mumble, people in those areas might notice a drop in water pressure, for example. They might also notice sometimes when they turn on their tap, the water being discoloured. And all I'd recommend in those cases is just run the water for a bit longer. Preferably run it outside if you can rather than run it inside, but run that water through the system. And all it is making sure, and this is in the water mains, making sure we've got any residue that's been built up in those water mains, cleaning those out. So you should still have normal water supply, but it might just be a slight drop in pressure and might be slightly discoloured.
All right. You've got some accessibility trials happening across the council websites. Tell me quickly about that, Matt.
Yeah, you've got 6 of our websites where you'll see an icon down the bottom left corner, which is the internationally recognised icon for accessibility. You can click on that, and that helps you if you've got, say, vision impairment, for example. So it's something that we're trialling at the moment, and we're using a third-party provider for this. The trial runs from the 3rd of April, so tomorrow that'll start, and finishes on the 1st of May. And so we're really asking people for some feedback. We've got to make a decision of whether we're going to use this particular third-party provider on all our websites or whether it'll be just a different provider that we might use. But basically, if you've got some accessibility issues, you want to have a look at that, just click on that icon, use the site, see how it goes, and give us some feedback on that.
All right. Sale yard sell-off here at Dubbo, a bit controversial at the Bennett. People coming out, including the Association of Sales Agents out there, coming back saying that your councillors didn't have enough time to have a look at this.
Well, it's interesting. The first statement you made there, Bret, I thought was interesting. It said sale yard sell-off. There's a long way to go before that is a decision, and no decision has been made. And I think that's the important thing here. I've had a bit of feedback from various people in the community, and even though I'm overseas, I've still got a mobile phone, I've still got access to email, so things are normal in terms of those sort of communications. And all we've done at this stage is said we need to change the operating model of the sale yards. In some recent changes we've had and some advice from the Office of Local Government, we know that model is not a model that we can keep going on to the future. So in looking at that model, looking at what we do with the sale yards, we're looking at all options. So we've actually said from a council resolution, we'll go out and look for expressions of interest for someone that might want to lease the sale yards, someone that might want to buy the sale yards, and also we'll look at that operating model we've got there. So at this stage, everything is on the table. All options are there, but to do the right thing by the community as managers of the sale yards, as councillors essentially manage the overall operation of that particular facility, we need to make sure we look at all the different options, and selling that is an option, leasing it's an option, and also changing the way we run the sale yards is an option. So we'll look at all of those options and come up with the best one. Now, again, no decision has been made, and so there's lots of opportunity for agents, for growers, for stock and station agents, for example, or even the transport operators, all of the different people that are involved with the sale yards, lots of opportunity for them to give feedback about what they would like to see happen out there.
Why do you think that these people have had this reaction to the news of this, though?
The resolution from council did say that we would go out and do an EOI for the lease or sale of the sale yards. So as soon as people see that option there to sell the sale yards, they sometimes jump to that conclusion because the word sale was in that particular resolution. But again, no decision has been made. The decision that's been made was to do an EOI, do an expression of interest, which is not a binding process. It really is a process to look at those as options, but also look at our operating model. And we've been looking at this for some time, Bret. There were some changes that came through. There's some advice that we had from OLG, and we just need to make sure that we are operating in the best possible way from the manager of that facility for our community.
But Matt, don't you think that if council have decided to go out and look at that, that really means that council will hand that off at some point? I mean, regardless of having the EOIs come in, I mean, isn't that a decision of council to say, well, we're done with it, we want to sell it for someone else to look after it? Is that what I'm reading into that?
No, so the example, let me take two extreme examples, Brett. If, for example, we received an EOI from someone who said, we'd like to pay council $1 million a week to lease the sale yards from council and run that operation, then councils would probably say, gee, that's pretty good money for that. We're probably going to lease that out at $1 million a week. We'd probably do that. If we got a lease option back that said, we're going to lease it off council, we're going to offer you $1 a year to lease the sale yards, and councils would probably say, well, that's not a good return on that investment. We'll continue to run it ourselves. And that's the idea of an LOI. Let's see what options are out there. And to some extent, it will be dictated by the dollars and it will be dictated by the operating model. Any sort of sale, some people are worried about if the sale yards were sold, would a company come along and close that down and then turn that into industrial estate? Well, there'll be two things in that. Any sale contract, and this would be something we'd look at in that EOI process, would dictate that they have to continue to be run as a sale yards. That's important for our economy, for them to continue to run as a sale yards. And if someone's going to buy those, they're going to pay a lot of money for them. I don't think the investment would stack up to then throw away all that business and then turn it into industrial real estate. So again, there's a few reasons there that wouldn't be closed down, but again, we can control that as part of that sale process. The great part about an LOI is it's a completely open book. All options are on the table and we'll consider all options. I mean, the Dubbo stock and station agents who currently run sales from the sale yards, we might get an expression of interest from them to lease or buy the sale yards. And that might be something we'd look at to say, well, we've got this particular organisation here that's already running sales out there. Well, for them to transition to be the running it and basically taking complete control, whether that be a sale or a lease, that might be a great option as well. So this is what I mean, Brett. Everything's on the table at the moment. There is no decision from council in any particular direction at this stage.
All right. So when the lease happens, though, council will have no control over it anymore. Is that correct?
Again, when you say when the lease happens, that would be an if a lease happens. If the lease happens, it would be like the caravan park. We own the caravan park. We've got a long-term lease on the caravan park. This is the one over in West Dubbo. And we've got a long-term lease there. So there's certain conditions in that. You would have conditions in that lease. For example, it might be that council still takes care of the long-term infrastructure, so any extra building, but the short-term maintenance of that infrastructure might be up to the leaseholder. Or the leaseholder might need to take care of the long-term infrastructure, and so basically council just takes a return on that and they really run that within certain parameters. So a lease still has parameters on it.
So we might be getting ahead of ourselves is what you're saying?
I would say definitely getting ahead of ourselves, but these are options to consider. I suppose that's the important thing for the community to hear. We are considering what options we've got available to us to change what we do at the sale yards at the moment.
All right, Matt, I'm way out of time, but Dream Festival, how's that going? You're calling for expressions of interest there?
Definitely, we've got that. That's a council resolution to get expressions of interest. And so essentially, we've got those out there at the moment. Again, this is an EOI, no decision has been made. We're asking for organisations that think they can run the Dream Festival. Tell us what your vision for the Dream is and tell us how you'd run it. And basically put those submissions in. You've got till the 21st of April to do that. And remember, there is $40,000 as part of that package to be able to take $40,000 from council and run that Dream Festival and make it an absolutely wonderful festival, recognised across the state, across the nation, and bring people to Dubbo for that festival.
Dubbo Region Mayor Matt Dickinson, happy Benacamo week.
Thank you very much, Bret. Talk to you next week.
Mayoral Memo with Matthew Dickinson from Dubbo Regional Council.